So this is the second part of the series related to Dvaitadvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Shuddhadvaita, and there are other philosophical systems in the Vedic Dharma. And the second part is going to be focused on understanding the meaning of the different philosophical systems in terms of the relationship between the ultimate reality and the cosmos, the creation. The first part of the series was dedicated on understanding the nature of the cosmos. जो जगत का स्वरूप है उसके बारे में हमने चर्चा करी लास्ट टाइम के सेशन में, तो फर्स्ट पार्ट। तो उसमें हमने जगत के विषय में हमने जो ये देखा था वो मैं आपको एक समरी करके दे रहा हूँ. I'll just summarize that what I took it in the last session. Excuse me. So in last session, what we looked at, the first session basically, what we looked at was the nature of the creation, or the nature of the universe, or the nature of the cosmos, or you can also say it as nature of the Jagat. And within Jagat, the sentient objects and insentient objects also are included. Sentient objects means the one which are conscious in nature, like us. We individuals are conscious beings. And the insentient means the one that are not, that is not conscious. The both are regarded as part of the creation. Both are regarded as part of the cosmos. So in the last session, we focused on the nature. What are the different schools of thought regarding the nature of the creation? Is it real? Is it unreal? Is it the combination of both real and unreal? Or is it actually you can't really define the nature of the creation in terms of real or unreal, so it becomes undefinable, right? So there are four schools of thought primarily regarding the nature of the creation, which we dove deep into in the last session. The summary was that those who consider the creation as real and it exists, those are called as Sadvad or Sadvadi. And the types of the philosophical systems that believe in Sadvad is one of the systems that believe in Sadvad is Mahaprabhu Vallabhacharya, which is us, which is Pushti Margis, do believe in Sadvadi, meaning we believe that the creation really exists and it is real, right? And there are other systems also apart from us who believe in Sadvadi, like Vishishtadvaita Vad also believes in Sadvad, and Sankhya system is also believes in Sadvad. So there are other philosophical systems who believes that the creation is real and it exists. Those who believe in the creation being real and unreal are basically Naiyayikas and Vaisheshikas. And then there is another school of thought that believes that the creation really does not exist. It does not exist, meaning it is asadvadi. And we really don't have a very solid example of the philosophical system who really believes in this philosophy. And then the fourth category is they believe that the creation cannot be really explained in terms of reality or unreal, because it's actually undefinable. Just like an illusion is undefinable, you can't really categorize into a real or unreal, and hence they say it is undefinable. One of the very popular, famous philosophical system who believes in that the creation is undefinable is Shankarites, or Sri Shankaracharya's philosophy, which is also called as Dvaita. In that, the nature of the creation is illusionary in nature, it's Mike in nature. It cannot be really defined into whether the Jagat exists or not. So it is also called as Sadasat Vilakshana or Vivarta. So here are the four categories of the nature of the creation. Now let's dive into the details, going back to our main topic, which is Dvait, Advait, Dvaitadvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Shuddhadvaita, and there are so many other different permutation combinations in our philosophical system. So I'm going to dive deep into the meaning of the Dvaita, and then I'll dive deep into different philosophical systems. I'll start with Shankarite philosophy. But before that, I'll just give you a quick overview of all our philosophical systems or major philosophical systems regarding the nature of the relationship between the creation and the creator. The creation is the cosmos, and the creator is also called as ultimate reality, which also is termed as Brahman, as I said earlier in one of my sessions. So we are really concerned about now, in this topic, we are concerned about the relationship between the creation and the creator. This is what is going to be the basis of our discussion for the next few sessions. And this is one of the very important aspects to understand when we are talking about Dvaita or Advaita or Vishishtadvaita or Shuddhadvaita or Avibhagaadvaita or Dvaitadvaita or Dvaitadvaita and so on and so forth. This is very fundamental to that. So before we jump into understanding all these nuances and differences between each and every philosophical system, it is extremely important that everybody uses some kind of the word Dvait or some kind of Advait. Every philosophical system in the Vedic Dharma has some kind of opinion about Dvait and some kind of opinion, some type of Dvait and some type of Advait. You can really not find any philosophical system which has an absolute absence of Dvait or absolute absence of Advait. So make yourself very clear, make it very, very clear that although the name suggests pure Advait or pure Dvait or pure Shuddhadvaita or pure, although the name might suggest, it might be misleading. So just understand for sure that every philosophical system in the Vedic Dharma has accepted some kind of Dvait and some kind of Advait. It is the difference is in the type of the Dvait and type of the Advait that these philosophical systems consider, and that's how it separates them, and that's how it makes them very unique in nature in terms of their philosophical system. So I hope that makes sense. I'll dive into the details of the topic now. So let me share one more diagram. So now I'm going to share this one. All right. So as I explained yesterday, let's first understand the term Dvaita and Advaita. So make sure that everybody is on the same page. The term Dvaita is derived from Sanskrit word Dvi, two. Dvi means two, number two. And Dvaita, the meaning of Dvaita is basically Dvidhaitam Jnanam iti Dvaitam. The meaning of Dvait is our understanding Dvidhaitam Jnatam Dvitam. That is one meaning. Another meaning of Dvait means Dvitasya Bhavo Dvaitam. Essentially what he's trying to say is Dvait means such kind of our understanding in which we see difference between the two objects. If our understanding and on our understanding level, if we see difference in between the two objects, there are similarities between two objects. There might be similarities between two objects. There might be dissimilarities between two objects. So there is already some kind of mind or understanding in which there are differences in our mind. We are able to recognize the differences between two objects. And there are some faculty in our mind that understands the similarities between two objects. So our mind works in both the faculties, in both the ways. We are also able to understand and comprehend the concept of Dvait, which allows us to understand the difference between any two objects. And there is also a faculty in our understanding which is called Advaita, which allows us to appreciate the similarities between the two objects. So our mind works similarly. When we see two objects, we always try to compare, oh, how are they same? How are they similar to each other? Let me find that out. Or, oh, how are they dissimilar with each other? How are they different from each other? That's how our mind works also. So, that type of understanding in our mind, where we are clearly able to differentiate between two objects, that this is this object and this is absolutely different from the previous object. That type of understanding is called as Dvaita. And then the quite opposite, where we are able to comprehend the similarities, we are able to understand in such a way that two objects are exactly same or similar to each other. That type of understanding is called as Advaita. I hope this makes sense. Dvaita is also called as Bhed, in other words. And it is also called sometimes in English as multiplicities or duality. And Advaita, the term Advaita, is sometimes also referred to as Abhed or singularity in English. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Feel free to ask any questions if you have in the comment section. All right. So we clarified the difference, the meaning of Dvaita and Advaita. And I think I think you all will appreciate that our mind works in such a way that we are able to appreciate the similarities between the two objects, meaning the Advaita part, and our mind also understands and is able to understand the Dvaita aspect of between the two objects, which is a difference between two objects. That's how our mind works, right? So the question now is, when we are talking about this philosophical system, the question now arises is this. The question is, given that there is a creator, given that there is somebody called as ultimate reality, which is called as Brahman in our Upanishads, and then there is something being created, or creation, or a cosmos, or universe, right? So there is a creator of the universe, which is Brahman, and there is something which is being created, which is the creation. What is the relationship between the creator and the creation? Are they both same? Or are they totally different? Or are they similar in some aspects and different in some aspects? Is it a combination of difference and same together? What type of relationship does it exist between the creator and the creation? Or, in other words, what is the relationship between the Brahman and the Jagat? That is the matter of the discussion in which the Dvaita and Advaita will come into the play in our discussion. Dvaita means, yes, there is some difference between the creation and creator. Or Advaita means, no, there is absolutely no difference between the creator and creation. Or it could, there are other nuances or other meaning attached to these words, Advaita and Dvaita. Sometimes the Dvaita and Advaita also refers to whether there are different things about the same Brahman. Within the Brahman also there could be parts. For example, I am the person. Now, I have a hand, I wear glasses, I have hair, I do tilak, and then I have my face, I have beard, I have nails. So as a person I am one. Advaita, I am one. Singularity, I am single person. But within myself, how many different components do I have in my body? How many body parts do I have? I have so many body parts that are different from each other. That constitutes me as a whole. Similarly, if you try to understand the nature of the Brahman, you may have difference of opinions now. Whether Brahman is just like me, who is made up of mechanical parts, put together and create a whole structure called as Brahman? If that's the case, what is Brahman made out of? That is another question. So in a way you can say that Brahman in itself is singular phenomena or a multiple phenomena. We don't know, we have to inquire. It is subject of inquiry now based on the Vedic scriptures. So we have to inquire about that. Or you can say that within Brahman there are different parts which are absolutely different, absolutely dual, absolutely Dvaita, absolutely bhed between individual components of the Brahman. Another question which we have to inquire based on the Vedic scriptures, and we have to understand it based on the scriptural text to get to the conclusion. Right? So, similarly, you have to also understand and inquire the relationship between the Brahman and the universe. Are there multiplicities that we perceive and conceive in day-to-day life? For example, I have this iPods. I have a different understanding of the iPods. I have a different concept about iPods. The same, I have a different concepts about my glasses. I have a different opinion about my glasses. I have different understanding about the glasses, different understanding of my my dress, my hair. Everything is different. So I have different understanding for different objects that I perceive, or specifically myself also I have difference of I understand my own body parts is differently also. So in a way, whatever I understand, whatever phenomena I understand in terms of whether it is similar or dissimilar, Dvaita or Advaita. The question is, what type of relationship does Brahman have with the creation? And that's where most of the philosophical systems differ from each other. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Let me move on now to the next part. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions in the comment section. Alright, so let me now reshare and then share another diagram. Okay, so now here is a quick overview of different philosophical systems in terms of the relationship between the Brahman and the creation or the cosmos. There is a difference of opinion between these philosophical systems as to what type of Dvaita and what type of Advaita they consider. But remember, as I said, none of the philosophical systems rely on absolute duality or absolute non-duality. There is some kind of duality that every philosophical system has incorporated, and there is some kind of Dvaita or some kind of duality that every philosophical system has considered. And we will try to deep dive into each and every aspect, and we'll try to understand the similarities and dissimilarities between all these philosophical systems as I'm showing in the screen. Alright, so the first philosophical system is called a Shankar philosophy. It's basically proclaimed by Gaudapadacharya, the Dada Guru of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. And then before Sri Gaudapadacharya, it is believed that there were other philosophers, Vedic philosophers, who had proposed the theory of similar to Shankar Theory before Shankaracharya ji as well. We could also find Sayana Bhashya of some of the Upanishads also that more or less matches, if not everything, more or less matches with Shankarite theory as well. So Shankaracharya ji, his philosophy is called as Kevaladvaita. In terms of English, it is called as absolute monism. Absolute monism. Now, remember, the word may sound like they consider only Advaita. The word may sound like that they only consider that they are absolute monistic theory. Based on the term, it might sound like they are They don't consider non-duality at all. That's not correct, by the way. In Shankar theory also, there is some type of duality which they consider. And the type of duality that they consider are three types of dualities the Shankarite theory consider. One type of, and which I'll dive into the details later on, but I'll just for your information. What I'm trying to make a point is, don't go by the term unless we dive into the details of the theory. Don't just go by the name of the term or the name of the theory. But anyhow, there are three types of dualities that Shankarite philosophy also considers. And those are, they consider that there are three types of dualities or Dvaita. The first type of Dvaita is called as Paramarthika Dvaita, transcendental reality. Paramarthika Dvaita, transcendental reality. The second type is called as Pratibhasika Dvaita. Pratibhasika Dvaita meaning illusionary. Yes, there is some kind of Dvaita that we believe, that Shankarites believe. But that type of Dvaita, it is one of the Dvaita is called as Pratibhasika duality, which is called as illusionary in nature, And the third type of Dvaita that Shankarite philosophy considers Vyavaharika Dvaita. Vyavaharika Dvaita means pragmatic reality. There are three types of realities. Again, there are three types of realities that Shankarite theory believes, or there are three types of Dvaita that Shankarite theory believes. One is the Paramarthika. It's actually not a duality, it's actually singularity. By the way, Paramarthika Satya is actually the singularity. But the other two, which is Vyavaharik Satya and the Pratibhasika Satya, those are a kind of duality that they also consider in that theory. I'll come to these terms and I'll explain you later on. But just to sum it up for now, Shankaracharya ji, and before him also, we find traces of the Kevaladvaitavad in the Upanishadic texts, in the Upanishadic commentaries. Mind it. I'm not saying that they are necessarily there in the Upanishadic text originally, but we do find commentators who has done the commentary of the Upanishadic texts in the form of the Kevaladvaita also, before even Adi Shankaracharya ji. Anyhow, but Adi Shankaracharya ji has systematized this theory. So he is a big contributor to proclaiming this theory and systematizing this theory, proving it, commenting it, creating a lot of commentaries, lot of scriptural texts, proving and justifying his theory based on the scriptural text. So it is one of the important popular theories in the philosophical systems of Vedic Dharma. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next is Madhva Vedanta, and underneath that, Sri Madhvacharya ji, he is a Vaishnavacharya. By the way, Shankaracharya is not a Vaishnavacharya. Madhvacharya ji is a Vaishnavacharya, and he basically proposed the theory of Dvaita, which is diametrically opposite stand from the Shankar theory. So Shankar theory believed that only it is there is Advaita, only Advaita without any kind of Dvaita. Because it is such kind of Advaita which cannot tolerate any kind of Dvaita. It is such kind of singularity which can never tolerate any kind of multiplicities. It is such kind of singularity, and I'm talking about Shankaracharya ji, by the way. It is such kind of singularity which cannot tolerate any kind of diversity within Brahman. It is such kind of singularity which cannot tolerate the multiplicities within that Brahman. Such is their Kevaladvaita. Such is the theory of the Shankara theory. Okay, compare it to Madhva theory now. Madhva theory says, well, the Brahman and the creation, the cosmos, are completely different. Dvaita, absolute duality. There is no similarity between the Brahman, which is the creator, and the creation. There are 5 types of differences that Madhvacharya ji has highlighted within the creation and between the creator and the creation. Hence it is proven, hence he has proven based on the scriptural text, that creator is completely different from the creation. There is no similarity. There is no similarity between the creator and creator. Alright. So, having said that, let me move on. And so that is the diametrically opposite stand to the Shankarite theory. Alright. Now let me move on to the next one, which is Sri Ramanujacharya ji's Vedanta, which is also called as Vishishtadvaita. If you focus on the Sandhi, and then you kind of extract out the meaning of this term Vishishtadvaita, it is called, in English it is called as qualified non-dualism. Qualified non-dualism. Vishishtadvaita, meaning Vishishta plus Advaita is equal to Vishishtadvaita. Vishishta plus Advaita, not Vishishta plus Dvaita. It's not a Dvaita philosophy. Within the term it says Vishishta plus Advaita. So, it is also called as qualified non-dualism. Qualified meaning Vishishta, and Advaita means non-dualism. Okay. Alright. Without going into the details of the actual principles of the Vishishtadvaita, just giving you a summary of what it is about. Think about a car. Think about a car. A car is made up of so many mechanical parts. But car is one. But the components out of which a car is made, the mechanical parts out of which a car is made, these components are different from each other, and it is also different from the car itself. So the car on its own as a whole, is one entity. It's a singular entity. However, there are components and parts that constitutes the car which is not equivalent or equal to car. For example, the tire, the driving wheel, the trunk, the body of the car, the color of the car, all of these parts are different from the car as a whole. However, when all of these parts combine together, they create one whole car, holistic structure called as car. Similarly, Ramanuja Vedanta says that Jeev and Jad, the conscious being and unconscious objects, sentient and insentient creation, are totally different from each other, similar to mechanical parts of the car, totally different from each other. You cannot possibly equate the sentient objects with an insentient objects, or a conscious being with an unconscious object. You cannot equate at all. They're completely different. Okay, so that's fine. And they also go one step further, and they say Brahman is made up out of the Jad, Jeev, and Ishwar. All of these three constitutes the whole Brahman, which is the singularity. So, similar to car, the Brahman is similar to car as a whole, one whole system. And as car is made up out of different components, parts, mechanical parts, similarly, it is the Jad and the Jeev, which is the Sharir of that Brahman, meaning it is the components through which the Brahman is made up out of. So they believe in Sharira Shariri Bhava. Sharira Shariri Bhava means Sharir means the body of the Brahman. The body of the Brahman is the part that constitutes the Brahman, which is Jad and Jeev. And the Shariri itself is the Brahman himself. And they also base their principle based on the Upanishadic texts. Ekameva dvitiyam yaha prithivyaam tishthan ya prithivim mantaro yasya prithvi shariram ya prithvi naveda sa atma antaryamyamritaha. So, similarly, they say there is a Sharira Shariri Bhava. The body of the Brahman is Jad and Jeev. However, the Brahman is constituted out of multiple components, and that's how the singular whole of Brahman is perceived, is believed in the Vishishtadvaita. Hence, in Vishishtadvaita, the nature of the Brahman is basically a compounded unity, meaning so many parts come together and create one whole system called as Brahman. Similarly, so many Jivas and Jad together combine to create one whole system called as Brahman. Brahman, however, is not just limited to Jad and Jeev, by the way. Brahman has also other attributes which are above and beyond the Jad and Jeev. But however, they consider Sharira Shariri Bhava in Vishishtadvaita philosophy. Okay. Now let me move on to the fourth one. The fourth Vad, the fourth principle, is Sri Pati Bhagavad-padacharya, and also similar principle by Sri Vijnana Bhikshu. They propose Visheshadvaita Mat, Visheshadvaita Vad, and Avibhagaadvaita Vad respectively. And they are more or less similar to each other, and that's why I have clubbed them into one here in this diagram. However, you can also understand separately also, and you can consider them as a separate system as well if you like. But for the sake of ease of understanding, I have combined them into one. All right, what do they say? Visheshadvaita and Avibhagaadvaita, they both say specifically Visheshadvaita Mat. By the way, Sandhi, if you do the Sandhi, if you extract the Sandhi, if you extract the words from, and by doing the Sandhi Vicheda of the term Visheshadvaita, you will get Vishesha Advaita, Vishesha plus Advaita. Similarly, Avibhagaadvaita, Avibhaga plus Advaita, that is the words that gets extracted out of the Sandhi Vicheda. Alright, so the crux of Visheshadvaita Mat is that things, Jad and Jeev, the creation is absolutely different from the creator, which is Brahman. However, there is a possibility that all this creation may submerge. When they submerge into the creator, at that time there is going to some kind of singularity, because everything is going to get submerged into the creator. When that happens, it becomes singular. There is only one thing, but within that singularity there are different components. Those components that get submerged into the creator, then that Brahman, there is still an absolute difference between these components within that Brahman. That's how they perceive the relationship between the Brahman and the creation. That is called as Vishishtadvaita. Similarly, Avibhagaadvaita Mat also gives a great example. So, the power. Hold on just a second. All right. Can you hear me okay? Okay, somebody please respond. I don't see any response in the call. I hope I'm audible. Okay, anyhow, I'll continue. So, I also wanted to give an example of Vishishtadvaita mat. So, one more example. Yes, okay, cool. So, one more example that the Vishishtadvaita mat gives you in order to understand their theory very easily is when different rivers, there is a separate existence of all the rivers until they get submerged into the ocean. Similarly, all the Jad and Jeev creation is absolutely different from the creator, because creator is considered as an ocean and the rivers are considered to be the creation. Take it an example to understand. What they are saying is similar to all the rivers before they get submerged into the ocean, they are totally different from each other. They are totally different from the ocean. And hence there is an absolute difference, absolute duality. But then when the rivers submerge into the ocean, at that time the existence of all the rivers now gets submerged into the ocean's existence. And hence there is a singularity in that way. So there is some kind of singularity, some kind of duality. This is the kind of duality that they consider. And the type of Advaita they consider is Swabhavika Bhed, until they are submerged into the Brahman. Until then, it is Swabhavika Bhed. When it gets submerged into the Brahman, then that type of Dvaita, that type of when it gets submerged into the Brahman, it becomes Advaita. Until then, it is Paramarthika Dvaita. Okay. Transcendentally, it is Dvaita, but when they get submerged into the ocean, when they get submerged into the Brahman, then they become Advaita. That is the standard. Similarly, the Avibhagaadvaita mat also gives you an example where some kind of substratum and some kind of thing that is based on that substratum. For example, I'll give you an example. So, substratum means the base on which the things lie. For example, this pad, I have a pad, a book pad. This is a substratum. This is the base for putting my book. So I'll put my book here on this substratum. Okay. So substratum is the base on which my book is lying right now. Okay. Now, can you say that this whole thing is singular, is one? Yes, you can say that. But at the same time, can you also see the separate existence of this book which is sitting above the substratum base? Yes. There is also a difference that I see. So as a whole, sure, there is an Advaita, there is a singularity, but then there is a relationship of the base and the object on the base, substratum and substract, the relationship of substratum, Adhar and Adheya relationship, it still exists. Similarly, Jagat or the creation is Adheya, and the Brahman is the Adhara, which is a substratum of the Jagat. When the creator wishes to create the creation, it pops up the creation like a and holds the creation like a substratum, like an Adhar. And when it wishes to consume it or submerge it in itself, then it will also submerge itself as a drop into the ocean. Just like a drop into the ocean gets submerged back into the ocean but there is also separate existence of the drop or the wave of the ocean. When there is a wave in the ocean, you would be able to see and experience the wave separate from the ocean as well, on top of the ocean. However, the wave does not leave the ocean. It never leaves from the ocean. It is created above the ocean, and it gets still remain attached to its substratum ocean. Still there is a separate existence of the wave. Similarly, to the wave and the ocean relationship, there is a relationship between the creation and the creator. The creation never leaves the substratum of the Brahman in their theory. However, it pops up, it has a separate existence, similar to the wave of the ocean. It is also called as Avibhagaadvaita Mata, which is from a Vijnana Bhikshu. Alright, so I hope this was clear. Let me move on to the fifth principle. The fifth system is called as Bhaskaracharyaji's Mat. It is also called as Dvaitadvaita Mat. Dvaita plus Advaita. It is a combination of both singularity and multiplicity together. Both duality and the multiplicity. Dvaita and Advaita, both are swabhavik. Naturally they are, transcendentally, naturally they are like this only. The relationship between the creator and the universe is both. There is combination of singularity and multiplicity, both. It's a combination. Similar to, gives an example of sun and sun rays. In Bhaskara Mat, we have an example of sun and sun rays. For example, wherever the rays are not attached to the sun by the way physically. The rays can get projected millions and millions and millions of light years on Earth. While the sun is millions of light years away from the Earth, the rays could still go wherever it likes to go. However, the rays cannot be created without sun. So, sun as an cause and rays as an effect is a power of the sun. Similarly, from the cause of the rays perspective, it is singular in nature. With the sun, because sun and rays are same with some perspective from the cause perspective. And from the effect perspective, however, since sun is in one location, the rays can project themselves into different locations. In that way, there is a multiplicity, there is a difference between the sun and the sun rays. So there is some type of difference between sun and sun rays, some type of similarity between sun and sun rays, which is also called as which could also be understood in the form of Swabhavika Dvaitadvaita Mata. Okay, which is excuse me, not Swabhavik, sorry, my bad. Aupadhika Dvaitadvaita Mata. I'm sorry, I'm extremely sorry. Bhaskaracharyaji's mat is Aupadhika Dvaitadvaita Mata. Sorry for my wrong usage of the term. It is called as, again, I'll clarify, Bhaskaracharyaji's mat is Aupadhika Dvaitadvaita Mata. However, the example remains the same, the sun and sun rays, by the way. And there are so many nuances to that also. There are so many logical pitfalls also that we can understand based on scriptural text, as well as even we think about logically also. There are so many pitfalls in each and every principle, by the way. But I will not go into these pitfalls right now, just for the sake of understanding. For now, I'll just explain all of them. And then we'll go into the details of it. Alright, the next one is called as, is from Sri Vallabhacharya, which is my sampradaya, is my acharya. Okay, and let me make it very, very clear. Many people who are not aware of Vallabhacharyaji's philosophy, who are not practicing Pushti Marks, sometimes even some practitioners of Pushti Marg also has the wrong understanding that his philosophy is called as Shuddhadvaita. Actually, Mahaprabhuji in his own words have never used the term Shuddhadvaita term to denote his own theory. He has used the term Shuddhadvaita for sure, but not to denote his own theory, by the way. So, in his own words, Sri Mahaprabhu Vallabhacharya ji has denoted the term Shuddha Brahmavada to be his own theory. Okay, which his theory which he accepts, the Vedic theory which he accepts, he terms that as Shuddha Brahmavada, or sometimes he terms as Brahmavada only, or in Bhashya he says Bheda Sahishnur Abheda. In his Brahma Sutra Anubhashyam he terms the theory that he accepts as Bheda Sahishnur Abheda, Bheda Sahishnur Abheda Vad, or Shuddha Brahmavada, or just Brahmavada. Now his son Sri Vithalanath ji, he also wrote 108 names of Sri Mahaprabhu Vallabhacharya ji, and one of the names is Sakara Brahmavadaika Sthapakaha, meaning he also terms the theory of Vallabhacharya ji as Sakara Brahmavada. So then we also have to consider one more term for that theory. It's called Sakara Brahmavada. So there are different terms used to convey the same meaning. The name of the theory there are multiple names of the same theory, but essentially that theory is called, in terms of Mahaprabhuji's it is called as Bheda Sahishnur Abhedavada, or Shuddha Brahmavada, or just Brahmavada, or Sakara Brahmavada. Okay. Essentially, we'll now refer to Mahaprabhuji's Vada as Tadatmyavada right now. So we'll just use one term consistently to denote the theory accepted by Sri Vallabhacharya ji in Pushti Marg as Tadatmyavada, hence from now onwards. Okay. In that, what we believe is, that there is such type of Advaita which can tolerate all types of Dvaita, and there is such kind of Dvaita which can tolerate the transcendental Advaita. So essentially we believe in the relationship of identity between Dvaita and Advaita. The relationship of identity in mathematics is denoted by equals operator. When there is an equality sign, that is the sign that is used to denote the identity relationship between the two variables. Similarly to the mathematics, when we say A equals to B, A also exists, it is real. B also exists, it is real. And the relationship between A and B is equality operator. It is equals. Similarly, there is a theory of the relationship of identity between the Brahman, which is denoted as A, and the creation, which is denoted by B, and there is a relationship between them as equality or identity. The relationship of identity, which we call it as Tadatmyavada. In this theory, what we consider is there is such type of Advaita which is real in nature, but this type of Advaita never violates the integrity and the Advaita of Brahman. It never violates the Advaita of Brahman. It never violates the Swabhavik Advaita of Brahman, because Brahman is capable of doing everything and anything. So hence Brahman, it is the Brahman through which you can You can have both duality and non-duality coexist together. Brahman is such phenomena. Brahman is such a type of phenomena where both duality and non-duality can coexist with each other. So we do not consider as a combination of duality and non-duality, similar to Bhaskaracharya ji. We do not believe in just absolute duality or absolute monism, just like Shankarites. Just like Madhvacharya ji. We do not believe in absolute monism, which is just like Shankarite theory. We do not believe in absolute duality, which is the Advaita philosophy of Madhvacharya ji. We do not believe in the qualified non-dualism, which is proposed by Sri Ramanujacharya ji. But we do believe, and we also don't believe a combination of duality and non-duality together. We don't believe samuchaya of Dvaita and Advaita, both as similar to Bhaskaracharya ji. We believe there is a relationship of identity between the duality and the non-duality, because the same Brahman has become singular, the same Brahman has become multiplicities, he has taken multiple names, forms and functions. Hence, raw materially everything is same. Similar to the ornament and the gold. Similar to the gold and the ornament. You can understand the theory very well in a simplistic way. With the ease of understanding, you can understand that all the ornaments made out of gold are essentially, materially, gold itself. However, making new types of shapes, names and functions of the in terms of the different types of ornaments does not hurt the material of the gold itself. The gold never becomes less of a gold when it is converted into different types of names, forms and functions in terms of the ornament. The gold remains still gold. It does not become lesser of a gold when it takes in the different names, forms and functions. Similarly, we consider is a relationship of identity between the Dvaita and Advaita, Brahman and the creation. There's a relationship of identity because the same Brahman has taken the multiple forms, names, forms and functions of the creation. So this is a very quick overview, a very high level overview. By the way, there are so many nuances that I have to go into the details. However, this was very quick session. I'm sorry, it might sound very, it might have sounded very overwhelming to you, this session. However, I do want to take it up all of these philosophical systems in a very quick, and wanted to give a quick overview of all of them, and then we will dive into the details of each one of them. We'll dive into the nuances of each one of them. I hope this was useful. I can take questions if you like. Please type in your questions in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. All right, let's see if there are questions so far. Okay, so Sri Vaishnava Digvijaya asks me, so the Swabhava gets altered according to Vishishtadvaita. I did not understand your question. With what context? What was the context of this question? I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. If you can ask this question again with a newer context, it will be great. Okay. Are there any other question? Any other questions? Let's see. Whoa, I think this session was very overwhelming. You people might have gotten a lot of information overload in this session. I'm really sorry if that felt like that. It might be sometimes those if you are very new to these terms of Dvaita and Advaita, and then it can really get very convoluted in terms of understanding. It is also a very esoteric concept to grasp easily in the first go. So I'll definitely understand if you're not able to grasp the concept completely, don't worry about it. You keep on thinking about this. The trick to understanding such concepts is to keep on thinking about the same concepts offline. Will allow you to understand the nitty-gritty details of these concepts. So go back when after this session, you should chew on this knowledge, and then you should continue digesting this knowledge and continue to ask questions to yourself, and then I think in that way you'll be able to grasp the complexity of this subject matter, because the subject matter itself is complex, I know, and so you have to accustom yourself in thinking in these complex concepts. It'll make your life easier. Okay, I see a question here. So Swabhava of river gets changed when it merges into the ocean, correct? So does the river adopt the Swabhava of the ocean in the Vishishtadvaita? Oh, this was, okay, very good question. No, actually, it's a very good question. I don't have a definitive answer to that. When the Jeev or the Jagat, when it gets submerged into the Brahman as per the Vishishtadvaita Mat, whether they consider that the things that are getting submerged into the Brahman becomes same as Brahman actually, or they still remain dual in nature after being submerged. Something that we need to dive deep into in the next session, but they do believe in Paramarthika Dvaita, meaning transcendentally also they remain dual in spite of they getting submerged into the Brahman. They still remain separate from each other, is what I understand. I may be wrong. I have to go back and check and verify that. But they believe in Anadi Santa Paramarthika Dvaita. I hope that makes sense. Yeah? All right. Any other question? Any other questions? No? No more questions? I think people got really bored this today. I think I'm boring so many people that they're and it's so heavy in nature. There's such type of sessions. Sometimes people it's just very difficult to grasp for the beginners. But yeah, I understand. Okay. I'll just wait for a few more minutes before I conclude the session. If you have any question, feel free to ask regarding the topic. Okay. Okay, so let me just summarize it for now. Okay. So summary is, and for those who really want to go deep dive into this subject, I'll just summarize it for you. So first is Kevala Advaita Mat, the textual reference or maybe a quickest or easiest way to understand Shankaracharya's theory from the textual reference perspective. And by the way, I'm saying that these are the only two texts that Shankaracharya refer, obviously not. But this is a trick to understand, to grasp the theory. Okay, just this is the trick, the mechanism to grasp the theory. If you combine two Shrutis together, you will be able to comprehend the theories very well. First Shruti is Ekameva Dvitiyam. It is Brahman is only one without a second. Okay, Ekameva Dvitiyam. So Brahman is only one. There are no multiple Brahmans. There is no multiple ultimate realities. There is only one ultimate reality. Ekameva Dvitiyam. And then you synthesize that with Indro Maya Bhi Pururupayate. He, the Brahman, created the universe, created the cosmos, just like somebody in illusion, somebody replicates through an illusionary power. Okay, so the creation is illusionary in nature, essentially. That's what the crux is. So if you try to synthesize these two Shruti Vachans, Ekameva Dvitiyam plus Indro Maya Bhi Pururupiyate, you will understand the gist of Shankar theory. Second is Madhva theory. Madhva theory, Dvaita Mat. Very simple way to remember his theory is when you synthesize these two Shruti Vachans. One is Ekameva Dvitiyam. He is the one without second. And Gyagyav Dvau Ajau Ishana Ishau. There are two things which are completely different from Brahman and completely different from each other, which is Jiva and a Jad. Ishana Ishau. If you combine these two texts, you will understand the gist of Madhva Vedanta. Ramanuja Vedanta now. Here are the two texts. If you synthesize which, it will be easier for you to understand. Is Ekameva Dvitiyam plus Yaha Prithivyaam Tishtan yaprithivyam tishtan yaprithvim mantaro yamiyati yasya prithvi shariram yaprithvi na veda sa atma antaryamyamrita. If you combine these two and synthesize the meaning, you'll understand the meaning of Vishishtadvaita Mata. Okay, next is Shripati and Shri Vijnana Bhikshu's Visheshadvaita or Avibhagaadvaita. Ekameva Dvitiyam plus Sayatha Nadhyaha Samutram Prapya Astangachanti Vidyante Tasama Namarupe Samudrityeva. Similarly, the Avibhagaadvaita Mata Ekameva Dvitiyam Yathagnehe Kshudraha Vispullingaha Vicharanti. Similarly, and then we go to the Bhaskara Mata Aupadhika Dvaita Mata. Say Ekameva Dvitiyam Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shuyate. Similarly, sun and rays example which I gave, right? If you combine these two Shruti Vachans, you will get the gist of Upadhika Dvaita Mata. And Vallabhacharya's Vallabha Mata, which is Shuddhadvaita Mata, or, by the way, I should not use it. It should say Brahmavad or Shuddha Brahmavad or Tadatmyavad or Bheda Sahishnura Bhedavada. Says Ekameva Dvitiyam Tadaikshat Bahusyam Prajayeya. If you combine these two, you will understand the Aichikadvaita plus the Swabhavika Advaita in Vallabha Vedanta. So essentially, Vallabhacharya believes in Swabhavika Advaita plus Aichikadvaita. Swabhavika Advaita plus Aichikadvaita. Ekameva Dvitiyam Tad Aikshat Bahusyam Prajayeya. I hope this was useful, and I hope. Tadatmya. Yes, there is a question. Please clarify the term tadat. Tadatma means in mathematics it is the equals operator, equality. A equals to B. So A is tadatma with B. A also exists, B also exists. A is also real, B is also real. However, they both are same. There is the relationship of identity. Mathematically, you can understand that way. Similarly, consider A as creator and B as a creation, and then you have a relationship of identity which is equality, and you will understand the gist of Vallabhacharya, which is Tadatmyavad. Okay, which is also can be said as Swabhavika Dvaita and Aichikadvaita. I will explain all of these in detail, by the way. This is just a very high level overview. Very, very high level. And understand, if you're not able to understand this completely, don't panic. It is absolutely okay for you to have questions at this point. It is absolutely okay if you're not able to completely comprehend all of these principles, all of these philosophical systems in today's session. Absolutely okay. I expect questions. I expect doubts. I expect you people who are listening for the first time in this this subject, I expect you all should have doubts. This is not enough clearly, and you just wait for my subsequent sessions, and then as and when we take up the sessions, things will be more and more clearer in your mind. So it's absolutely okay if you have doubts at this point. Yes? Okay. Are there any other questions? Let me just check. Okay. No questions. I hope this was useful. See you in my next session on this topic. I'm going to dive deep into Shankar Vedanta next time, and then eventually Madhva, Ramanuj, Bhaskar, and then ultimately our goal is to reach to Vallabha Vedanta, which is Tadatmyavad. So hang on, stay tuned for my next session on this series. I'm going to dive deep into Shankarite theory. Jai Sri Krishna to everybody. Thanks for joining.